Oh well.
Okay, you do look a bit dark, but such is the way of the dragon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Mind Heist, the most exciting, terrific, spentopulous, tremendous. Now I have to go to Trump. We
Yes.
have the best tariffs that anyone's ever seen, the best economy. Biden never had tariffs. They asked me, did Biden ever have tariffs? I said, no, they never had tariffs. We always had better tariffs than Biden. And Kamala, don't get me started on Kamala, terrible tariffs. Yeah, bro. So, look, bro, I don't want to go into my life story. All I'm going to say is you were in Tunisia. We talked about that. I went to Algeria. I came back 1 week. It was about 7, 8 days. It was nice. I just found out that Pegasus, there are two low cost, what do they call them? Carriers that go Istanbul to Algiers, right, to the capital.
Algae.
So, wow, if I knew that, I could have saved a lot of money. Although flying to the capital is not that convenient for me. But that is what it is. I've got a specific thing to discuss, and I put this down to cover, and we just didn't get round to it. Okay, and I think it's what they call a hot take. A hot take. You know when you say hot take,
Go
does
for
that
it.
mean it's like hot, like it's good, or does it mean it's controversial? What does it mean, hot take?
Means it's just about to be spicy. That's what it means.
Spicy, yeah. Okay, spicy take. So it's anyway. We'll see. We'll see. You let us know what you think. So basically, bro, I think a lot about the lifestyles we live today compared to 50 years ago, compared to
Yeah.
150 years ago. Okay. And especially having three
Yeah.
young whippersnappers, all age 5 and under. It makes you wonder, how did people of the past, who also had to go and gather water, who also had to grind the oats or whatever, the wheat into flour and then be able to make bread from it, how did they deal with this? Right. And from this thought process, I kind of came to this thought that, women, especially, let's say, I mean, women, yeah, not just Muslim women, women in 2025 could be categorized into three types of lifestyles they live, some better than others.
Okay.
So the first uh, archetype, okay, the first is the let's say the working mother. Okay, imagine, let's say in the UK, let's say a sister, she's married, she's got kids, but she has to work as well, right? I think most of our sisters that work, they have kids, they don't really want to work, they just do it because they feel like they got to do that to get by. So if you think about her, she's a Muslimah, so she's probably like mostly in this traditional mindset, and she still takes a lot of ownership of the kids and looking after the kids. But on top of that, she's working. So this archetype of sisters is actually struggling the most, right? If you think about it, struggling the most. She's got work and all the horrible stuff that comes with that. Obviously, it does, it pays for some stuff. But then when she comes home, a lot of the time she's cooking, cleaning, looking after the kids, blah, 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 right? Also, maybe a good chunk of her pay might have to go to, services, whatever it is that take care of the kids, right? Although I don't know if it's free or if that's privatized or maybe it's private under a certain age. But El Muhim, you could say she doesn't have the luxury of saying, no, I want to take care of my kids fully, right? She's going to work. So this is one type. This is, maybe you could say, the most recent archetype. Okay, so that's one type. The other type is the stay-at-home mother, right? And a lot of, I think, sisters would aspire to be this type where when you have kids, you want to be there for them, right? You want to take care of them. You want to, yeah. The husband goes, he's the provider. You're at home, you look after the kids. Now, this sounds good and all, but this is a situation in my household, right? However, when you are on your own, right? Like maybe your husband went to work in another city away from family because that's just the opportunities that he had. And so now it's like you and the kids. Yes, you're able to stay at home. You don't have to work, but it's just you and the kids like all day from wake up to when you sleep. And so that's tough. Also, because, you got one salary, maybe, you can't enlist the help of any people, any services that might help you with that. And then you've got the third type, which is maybe, the more traditional setup where, yes, the mother's not working, but she's living in a setting where family's close by. Almost to the level where it's like, it's not even a second thought. It's like, oh, I want to go to the shop. Okay, my sister's gonna come over and just watch the kids. Or the kids are already at the sister's house. Or it's just so interchangeable and fluid the way the kids are going to all their aunt's house, uncle's house, this house, blah blah blah. Cousins playing with each other, this and that. And so the burden is shared. Even cooking wise. One day so and so cooks for you, you don't have to cook, right? Next day you cook for them, blah blah blah. So there's a community vibe, although it might just be between family, but there's that sharing of the burden, let's say. So yeah, there are these three archetypes, and I think that honestly, like the way we think and the shortcuts that we make in our head, we've not caught up to this new reality. We're not caught up to this reality. Like primarily, like we think that we're in the third category, like most people are in the third category, but really most people are in the first or second category. And so our expectations and all of that is in line with one of those two. So that's it, bro. That's my take. It's that we're not like some women are living it harder than others, like much harder than in the past because they're doing like two kind of roles, and the others. Actually, this actually is another thing that came to mind. Category 2 and 3, they have certain things as well that are easier than ever, right? For example, dishwasher. Bro, I got a dishwasher last month.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say this on mine, I did. Did I say this? Bro, okay. Dishwasher, this is like a bit of a tangent, but it's relevant. Okay.
Go for it.
I've never had a dishwasher in my life. Like my
Yeah.
family, my parents never had a dishwasher, yeah. I feel like that's, growing up, I always thought a dishwasher is like one of those, like it's almost like if you got a dishwasher, you probably have a butler as well. Like for me,
I know what you mean.
that's
Yeah.
what it was like, right, in my head, right?
Yeah.
I think it's much more of an American thing. Like it was much more common in the US, like in those 80s, 90s kind of era. For me, growing up in the 90s, like it was always a very like luxury thing. We never had it.
Yeah.
But
100%.
and even when I got my own place and I'm furnishing my own place, it didn't cross my mind once to get a dishwasher. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
what? Like, didn't think about it once. Then my wife mentioned it to me once or something like that, and I'm like, well, we don't really need a dishwasher. We only got one kid. Like, I heard, it doesn't really make sense if you just three of you, young kid, whatever. But now, bro, that we're five of us. So then I was like looking into it. I'm like, okay, it's not that expensive for what it does. And then I started looking into how the dishwashers work, and it's actually amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The engineering of a dishwasher is amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know how it works?
Yeah. I used to have one in my one of the flats I lived in. Um,
Ah,
I saw some videos years ago, but I haven't got one at the moment. But yeah,
ah,
the thing is, it's not. Here you go, I've got a light here. It's not that a lot of places, a lot of apartments don't accommodate for one, so there's not even a space to put one. But some will
right,
have one already
right,
kind of built in or space for it. So it depends, because I don't know about your place,
right,
but like my place at the moment, even if I wanted one, there's nowhere to put it in the kitchen. So,
right.
but yeah, so tell me about it. You
Yeah,
got
my
one?
place actually. Yeah, my kitchen actually has a slot for it, and I think a lot of the kitchens in the buildings that are 5 years or newer, they
Yeah.
have it. So I always was using that for something else, but now we got one. So I got a second hand one actually,
Mm.
because I wasn't ready to go full commitment to get a brand new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got a second hand one for about £100, and it was actually like it wasn't like a basic one. It was a little bit fancy, and it's sick. It is sick. Um, yeah, just like once a day, you're just loading it up. Probably most people listening, they're like, this guy is like old school, man. Like we've always had a dishwasher. Also maybe that kind of made me realize as well, a lot of the sinks that I've seen in the like where around where I live in Istanbul, the sinks are tiny. I'm like, how are you going to do washing up in a sink that size? But now I'm realizing maybe because they're assuming everyone will have a dishwasher. I don't know,
Maybe,
you know.
maybe.
Um, El Muhim, so yeah, dishwashers are quite amazing. But the point is that yeah, stay-at-home moms or just people who are taking care of a house in general, there are a lot of things that are easier than they used to be 100 years ago. You got dishwasher, you got microwave, you got convection oven, you got like pressure cooker where you just like throw random stuff in a pot and
Yeah.
then leave it, and then half an hour later it's
There's a
done.
lot, yeah.
Yeah, you got washing machines,
From
you got dryers, even though that's
the
probably more
people
American thing.
people have made
Yeah.
do in all times.
No.
There are things like you've
Yeah.
mentioned about childcare, about family support.
Yeah.
Families are a lot more isolated, especially in the West, but even
Yeah.
in the Muslim world, they're growing more and more isolated in certain areas, especially in inner
For sure.
cities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
women are finding it harder from that angle. But once again, there are always many, many blessings we can count. I mean, we live like
Yeah.
kings. The average, even the poor person, quote unquote, lives like a king compared to you know people in ancient times. We've got central heating, we've got running water, we've got all sorts of
Yeah.
amenities. Everything can be delivered, everything can be ordered online. Wait one day, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, and even an income, a regular income, even if it's benefits, their regular income that comes, whilst some people would have to. I mean, in the past, agriculturally, you would get your income in the harvest time, and then you'd have to make everything last for the rest of the year. And if you had a poor harvest,
Yeah.
you had a difficult year, or you'd buy and sell or whatever. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, from if you isolate just the childcare aspect, of course it's not easy and it can be difficult. I mean, my wife, by me, and I don't think she worked a little bit since we got married. We've been married for 8 or 9 years. I think she did about in total maybe 4 months work, 5 months work in that whole time, and it was much. It was during her first. Where was it? Let me think. Just after we had Suleiman, so our first child, for a little bit, but she didn't really want to do it anymore. So since then, we have she hasn't been working. But we speak about it sometimes. We speak about maybe she might want to work in the future, not because she needs to, but because I don't know, she doesn't want to live her life without having any sort of experiences that. And it's not work like you have to, but work like I don't know. She's always wanted to be a pastry chef or something. She's always wanted to go to culinary school or something like that. Something some sort of project or something like that. Um, but the
Yeah.
dynamic, I suppose, is a different one. I mean, I hear a lot of horror stories and I hear a lot of good stories. So I think it all comes down to the couple how they make it work, isn't it? Um, but
Yeah.
what do you think are
Yeah.
like? What do you think are things that people are overlooking when it comes to planning for this kind of life? The whole what's the word, division of responsibility, or when it comes to work and stuff like that. Do you think a lot of people just expect not to work, like women expect to get married and not work? Or do you think people are more comfortable going 50-50 on everything, like you said?
Have you ever bought something from a shop and then you want to return it? You want to get your money back, but you just keep delaying actually going back to that shop to return it, give the receipt, and get the money back. This is what might be happening if you're procrastinating. You've got something that you can really make a big go at. You can achieve big things in your life, but you keep putting it off until one day it'll be too late. If that's you and you're a Muslim man and you've got big ambitions for your life, but you're not taking action on them, you're procrastinating about it, then check out my YouTube channel, because every single video there is for people like you to help you. So check out the link in the description and you're going to enjoy those videos if that sounds like you. Hmm. I, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't
Really?
really know.
What about the
But
people that
from what I understand,
I was going to say, what about people that you're like coaching and stuff, like young men? What are their
yeah,
expectations these days? Do they all realistically think, oh, I'm going to 100% provide and my wife's not going to work? Or do they go into the whole marriage seeking
yeah,
process expecting a 50-50 kind of thing?
yeah. No, none of them want their wives to work generally, right?
Yeah.
None of them want that to be a situation. A lot of them seem to be of the mindset of like, I want to be the provider,
Mm,
but I'm not gonna stop her working at the same time.
yeah.
Okay. Um, I think, yeah. So, and these are like more the younger generation, right? Like people who are literally maybe 10 years younger than me. So it's a bit of a different generation. But that's what I find, has they've been trained to think actually
Really.
that, yeah, you're the provider, but you can't stop your wife from working. Like if you ever had that thinking that your wife shouldn't work, she's not allowed to work, that kind of thing, like that's misogynistic, you know.
Okay.
I that's what I gather, that they've been kind of taught to think. So even to the point where one brother, he's like having a bit of an issue with this when he was like looking to get married, and he almost like didn't even want to share that with me. He's like, I don't really want my wife to work, but don't tell anyone. You know, I'm I'm like, bro, this is extremely like normal. Like for me and for a lot of people, that's very normal. But the way he was thinking about it, it was obvious to me that he felt like, oh yeah, that's like a bad thing. And then eventually when he opened up and I opened up, and I'm like, look, bro, of course. I'm like, of course, man. But eventually he was like, yeah, like it's just that, some people, they might say like that's toxic and that's this, and all these
Right.
labels are put on it. And I'm like, wow, like I'm genuinely like really surprised about that. But maybe you shouldn't be surprised, considering the culture they grew up in and stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know where I would fall. I probably would fall in the whole, as long as the job isn't like an impermissible job, I wouldn't stop my wife personally. Um, I think, especially because, like, my wife sometimes is really passionate about certain things, and I'd like to support her in those passions. But a lot of it isn't because, oh, she needs the money. It's because she's passionate about a particular subject area or work area or whatever it might be. And I think there's a sense of pride of in working and achieving something, or even if it's some sort of more positive form of work, or constructive form of work, like charity work, or volunteer work, or whatever it
Yeah,
might be. Like,
volunteering. Yeah,
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 but if, not everything has to be volunteering. I mean, if there is a element of getting an income from that, and it's a personal income that she can, buy herself anything without having to ask me at all, because the way we've got it set up, I
yeah,
mean, there is an element of money I will give her every month, for example. But then I generally just tell her, oh, if you need something, just ask me. And although I'm comfortable her asking me for anything, she may be uncomfortable constantly asking. And I think there's an element that women want to have, no doubt, their own sort of ability to buy what they want when they want, kind of thing. Um,
yeah,
so I think you've just got to kind of. I mean, there's no one size fits all. I think everybody just has to assess their own marriage and what they're comfortable with, and what not concessions, but what agreements, and what, I don't want to say compromises either. Just flexibility, just to be inflexible with each other to a certain extent. I've always said, like,
mm,
as long as it's not haram, I don't mind. Like, I support you, and same with my kids. Like, whatever you want to do, as long as it's not haram, I'm there to help and support and whatever. And I think that's the bottom line. There are guys that might go a step further than that, and they'll have their own personal preferences that they want to يطبقوا. But I don't think that's too much of a headache for me. Because you can argue with halal and haram, yani, with the weight of the sharia behind you, you don't really need to argue much. But anything beyond that, or anything that's a personal preference, you might be being obtuse about. It's like, well, it's harder to kind of argue that. It's harder to kind of impose that, so to speak. But that's me. I'm sure
yeah.
you're similar,
I
maybe.
think I think that what I've noticed is the standard. For example, yeah. So I might say, yeah, if my wife's going to go out of the house every day and go and work in a place where there are men, that's that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone might say, oh, but is it haram? And then we start getting into, oh, is it haram? Is it halal? What's the ruling? And but that's like a quite a low standard, if you like. If
Really?
imagine everything in your life, you're talking about that you're on the limit of halal haram. For example, Ramadan. Ramadan, all I have to do is fast.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Right? I don't have to do tarawih. I don't have to do any sunnah. I don't have to do any adhkar, any dua, nothing. All I have to do is not eat not eat and not sleep with my wife from morning to evening, right? That's all I have to do. But do people do that? No, because they realize that our life is, hayati wa mabati wa nusuki. All of it is for Allah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we're created to worship Allah. And Allah is deserving of more than the boundary of halal and haram. So generally, we want to avoid those discussions where, especially with ourselves, when it comes to stuff between ourselves, our family, we don't want to be talking about the boundary between halal haram. We want to be talking about what's most pleasing to Allah, what's best for us and our family and the akhirah, right?
Yeah.
Now with other people, yes, we go soft on other people, and with other people we talk about, oh, you're definitely in the green, you're not in the haram zone, and all of that. But if I was to give someone like real advice that's going to benefit them the most, I would give them the same advice for myself, innit? I'm just saying that some people can, especially when they're living in a society where certain things are extremely normal and accepted, then they go really to this very boundary thing. Oh, but technically it's not haram. It's just like, why would you, my man, my brother in the ummah, my brother in Islam, why would you, and even my sister in Islam, why would you want to go and be mixing with non-mahram men, be going out of the house, mixing with this and that, getting on the dirty bus with vomit on the floor? Why would you do that? Like, if you don't have to do that, why would you do that, right?
Mm.
So that's, I think, what we got to watch out for is that every society, but especially where you're influenced by non-Muslims, you're going to have certain things that are really borderline, or they're really close to the haram. They might not be in the haram, but they're close to the haram. And just because that society deems it normal, you're like, yeah, well, it's not
Mm.
haram. You see what I mean? And this does apply to Muslim societies as well in different areas. But yeah. Um, but you know what? To be honest, bro, this is not the direction I was thinking of, even though it's all positive conversation. But I was thinking about, there's almost an inequality gap, right? People talk about that when it comes to income and money and blah, blah, blah. There's a gap between the rich and the poor, and it's getting bigger, and there's no middle class. I feel like that's the same when it comes to these sisters' lifestyles, right? And I don't know if I categorize it well. So just to put two extreme examples out there. One example is the sister who has to work and she does everything at home. That's one example. The other extreme is the sister who doesn't have to work and her kids go to school and she's got all the appliances and help, if you like, at home. I'm just thinking, and my wife is like maybe somewhere in the middle where she doesn't work, but then she homeschools. So, there's a lot to do. The kids at home 24/7,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Yeah.
So, so you
Yeah.
see that gap, bro. One of them, as soon as the kids are out the house, she's got like 6, 7, 8 hours to herself. And I'm just like, I was actually talking to my wife about this. I'm like, that's mad. Like, if you think about it, that's mad. Like, what are they
Mm.
doing with their time? I mean, some, I'm sure, using it very wisely and well. But I'm saying, like, wow, like men, but most men, like, if they're working, they don't have that. A lot of women don't have that. But these sisters are in that position where the kids are at school. Like, when their kids reach a certain age, all the kids are at school, and all they have to do is like keep the house clean and cook like a meal or two. Like, wow, that's very easy. Then on the other extreme, it's like you go to work and you're taking your kids to school, and then you come home and you're cooking and you're clear. Wow, that's a lot. You see what I mean? You
Mm.
see the inequality gap. And these are two extremes, really, two
Yeah, it's
very different lifestyles that people are living.
although at the same time, like there's an element of uh, let's I'm trying to think of my example, but like to run the family in a way that I do, sometimes I can't even be with my family at all. Like it's almost like I'm working three jobs sometimes just to keep it afloat and to keep it the way it is. And then I don't really get like I don't feel like when it is really that busy, because especially now with like web design and stuff, some days are harder than other days. Some weeks I'm like doing my day job all day and then I'm locked away in the dungeon all night and I just don't see anyone. And then I feel like I'm not there
Yeah.
to do enough parenting at all. Or, with the three kids we've got at the age that they have, they're all at home and uh, my wife will get just completely burnt out, like all day and all night, just looking after the kids for like weeks on end, whilst I'm locked away. It's like, oh, there's not enough time to, there's not enough time for her to even think, not enough time for her to even like look at herself in the mirror. Do you know what I mean? So it is really difficult, I think, for couples. And, we make it work, alhamdulillah. But some people maybe don't have that kind of patience with each other. And they might start pointing fingers at each other and like, oh, you need to help me do this with the kids. I was like, well, I can't because I need to do X, Y, Z to put the food on the table, etc. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's hard. I mean, some countries are easier than others, but I think and some jobs obviously pay more than others. Some people, alhamdulillah, are blessed to not have to do stuff like that. They can work one job 9 to 5 that pays enough for everything, and at 5 o'clock they're done. So and then they can be with their family, or they can provide their family, whatever it might be, or teach their family, whatever it might be. So I think, like I said, I think it's really difficult for a lot of people in Europe, in the West, in general, even in the Muslim world, no doubt. Um, and there is a line, isn't there? Like you said, there's a line between women who maybe are working because they want more stuff, or because they actually need to just provide for the kids that they have, or provide for the family they have. Um, I think everyone has to kind of look at themselves and look at their situation and see, am I working because we need it, or am I working because we want it? The needs and wants debate is quite a feisty one to have. Um, but yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't just affect the self; it affects the marriage as well. It affects how a couple
Mhm.
treat and see each other. It's just like a professional relationship. It becomes, the marriage itself is also a job in a sense. It's like, okay, have you clocked in? Have you clocked out? you know.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy.
everything needs time. That's the thing. Like work is one element of a family, but there's so much else that goes into, like some weeks I just feel like I haven't seen my wife in weeks. I haven't seen my kids in weeks. And yeah, sure, great.
Yeah.
There's food on the table, and they're wearing clothes, and they've got everything they need. But I don't feel like I've been there, and
Mhm.
that could be something that some guys, some couples, some marriages, that is the majority of their life. You know,
Yes.
that is the
And then that applies also to the kids, like in terms of, um, time with kids, basically, and raising
100%.
kids and influencing kids. Um, like I think of that sometimes. Like when I was in Algeria, it was like it was maybe 9 p.m. right, and there's this guy on the side of the street who's got like a little kiosk, just selling little bits and pieces, probably mostly cigarettes and
Yeah,
drinks or
yeah,
something like that. And I was thinking, it's 9 p.m. This dude's here. When did he get there? Probably got there sometime in the morning, 9
100%.
a.m.,
Yeah.
10 a.m., I don't know. And he's there all day. But I think secretly, like, he's there. He don't want to go
You
home. He
sure?
could go home, right?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know if, for example, if he went home at 7 p.m. versus 9, whatever he sells in that time, is that going to make much difference? I don't know. I think likewise, I've seen real estate agent offices here in Istanbul where there are like they're run by Arabs or whatever, and I'm walking past and I look in, and it's obvious there's like 3, 4 guys in there chilling out, and it's like 9 p.m., 10
Yeah,
p.m.
100%.
I'm like according to their wives, they're working.
Yeah.
But really, they're not working at that time, Yanni. Maybe at 7 p.m. they stop working, but now it's 9 p.m. And it's just like that. Like, I get it, right? Because sometimes I feel like that. Like, okay, I finished my work. Like when I had an office, especially, and now I've just been working. Now I'm gonna go home to like the kids and this and that. And it's kind of like, oh man, but this is life, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's been a big shift in like the types of work and working from home and stuff like that. Like that's really changed the game for me. Um and for the last, oh god, 4 years maybe I've been working from home. Maybe it's been 4 years.
Mm.
Predominantly working from home, not obviously 100%. But yeah, that's changed the game to the extent that like I'll be getting ready to go to the office and my kids are like, "Where are you going?" I'm going to work. But like, oh, I was like, listen, back when I was your age, I never saw my dad. And like, I've
Yeah.
started to tell them stories like that, and they just don't get it. It's like, yeah, my dad used to go to work every day.
Mm,
And you'd think that's,
yeah.
but there's also something special about that as well. It's like catch 22. There is something almost, what's the word? I don't know. There's something about a man leaving his house to go and provide that like just activates something in a wife and kids, and it activates this like level of understanding and this level of like working from home as useful as it is. I don't think it should be 24/7. I don't think every man should just stay at home every day, because I don't think it teaches the family anything. And everyone thinks you're available, and you yourself might become more available for them than you should be. Um, so I do like to
Yeah, man.
maybe twice a week, once or twice a week, just stay out in the office all day, catch up on everything I need to do. Um, or if you've got your 24-hour offices or whatever, or late night offices, just go and do work there. So yeah, I think there's that element of it. I think I think kids need to see you leave the house, really. But also, I wouldn't know. I mean, I had my fair share of night shifts and stuff like that. Emergency police work was very grueling. So there was a level of the kids kind of seeing that and respecting that in a way, and having, seeing stuff that would happen outside and being like, oh, Dad, did you deal with that? Or Dad, did you, what would you do there? Or Dad went out and caught the bad guys and all that sort of stuff. Like you're
Yeah.
imprinting the lessons on your kids by doing certain work. But when they just see you stuck on a computer at home, there's not much they can learn from that, right? So
Yeah,
the
100%.
the dynamics are interesting, and I think once again, it's whatever works for everyone. It's just being conscious of all these different elements, I think, is really important, and even the effect that it's going to have on your wife, and the effect it's going to have on your relationship. Hey, some people fall out of love with each other and they get bored of each other, and do you know what I mean? Like, maybe alhamdulillah we haven't got those problems, but I hear a lot of problems, bro. But I've been married for so long, I'm sure you've heard plenty as well from other people, and it's
Mm,
like, I'm hearing stories these days of like couples in their 40s, right? They've been married for ages, they've got teenage children, and because the kids are older now, they're like, oh, I can go to work. Like the woman will say, I can go to work now. She go to work, and just her whole personality changes, and they clash. The husband and wife clash with each other. They realize they don't really get on. They want different things at this age. They end up getting a divorce, and I keep hearing that same story again and again. you know,
subhanallah.
yeah. I even turned to my wife the other day. I said, you know what? Because we heard a story of this couple, and I said to her, listen, do you think you'd ever change if you went back to work? Like, if you went to work, would you think you'd ever
Yeah.
change? It's like, I hope not. I was like, yeah, I hope not too. Not that we're planning to, but like, it's some people that we know that it's happened to. We just couldn't believe it because, when you know someone so well, you think, oh, this is what this person's like. And suddenly they've gone back to work and their life's changed. Suddenly they've changed and what they want has changed and their personality has
Yeah.
changed, and even their level of
Yeah.
iman or whatever has changed with it. And it's like, oh my God, it's scary. It really is. So,
You went to school and you studied English, science, you studied maths. Then you went to university, studied engineering, economics, maybe computer science. But where along the line do you ever learn about how to be a man of character, how to be a man that takes action, how to have a resilient mindset, and to build yourself to become a man that you're proud of, especially the Islamic way? Because there are a lot of men, when they want to learn how should a man act in this situation, especially in 2025, they will either end up going left side to the feminism or right side to the red pill. Well, I wrote a book specifically that cuts through both of those, and it just goes to the source, to Islam, to show you how to be a man of character according to Islam. I've got a free chapter for you in the description. Click that link, check it out, and if you like it, you can get the whole book. Well, that's a very interesting point, because it's like it depends how, especially the woman, how she takes that phase in her life. So like I always tell my wife, like right now you've got 3 kids who are all young at the same time. This is probably the hardest time of your life, right? Like keep that in perspective. Like, and maybe you'll live 60, 70, whatever years. This like 5 to 10 year period is going to be the hardest period of your life, right? My hardest period of life was when I was like broke and not married and don't know what I'm doing with my life,
Yeah.
right? Like who knows? But inshallah, like the hardest time of my life is over, right? But now my wife is in her hardest period of life, right? And it's good to like keep things into perspective and realize that there are different phases of your life. But if a woman was going through that hardest period of her life, right, with the kids, maybe on top of that she's working and really difficult, right? If you don't think I am choosing to do this for the sake of Allah. Yeah. If instead you're like, oh, I'm forced to do this. Oh, life is forcing me to do this. My husband's forcing me to do this. What do you think is going to happen when the kids are older? The kids are whatever doing their own thing. They're more independent. And now you're thinking about, okay, well, now I could do more like, I could do more of what I like. Now that resentment might come. And now that's where the divorce might kick in. It's like, you were holding me back this whole time. Now the kids are more independent.
Yeah.
I feel like more able to do a divorce or, whatever it is. Now I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Right. You can imagine that happening. So it depends, how you internalize and how you process that difficulty and why are you going through this difficulty? What's it for? Is it for the sake of Allah? Like that's a very positive way of processing it. But if you're like, oh, my husband forced me, this forced me that, then you always at the end of that, when do you have the chance? Who knows what will happen, right?
Yeah.
You never know.
I've-
And you're right. I've heard at that kind of age, around 40, a lot of dynamics kind of change somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think that the times I'm happiest with myself are the times where I push myself to just keep going until everybody's asleep. It's like, okay, I finished my work, and everything in you wants to just kind of like knock out, either go to sleep or on the sofa or whatever it is, and let your wife just carry on looking after the kids until it's bedtime. But the times I'm happiest with myself and I'm proud of myself, in the lightest terms, is when you just keep going. So, okay, what else needs doing? Oh, right, dishes aren't done. Let me do those. Oh, the kids, one of the kids needs help on the toilet, or oh, actually, this needs doing, or that needs doing. Like today, actually, well, yeah, today, like I got up, and because I did so much work yesterday, I thought, oh, actually, I don't really need to do that much work today because I did so much more yesterday because it's quite flexible. So I did like the whole garden. I did the front garden, I did the back garden, and then I thought, okay, let's take the kids out. Let's go out and let's do stuff. When I could have just sat at home or just been lazy or whatever it is. Like there's that element of laziness or tiredness, or men
Yeah.
justifying that. Oh, okay, today's my day off. I'm the breadwinner, so I get to just laze about now. But like I'm
Oh,
thinking back to my dad. Like I don't really see my dad doing that much. He was always quite active, and if things were needed doing, like cooking dinner, for example, he would cook a lot, and I just grew up knowing that men cook as well. He wouldn't cook all the time. My mum would cook like 80% of the time. But like when my dad would cook, he was like, oh, dad's cooking. It's going to be one of those dishes that we really like that dad does, what I mean? So like, and dad's kind of cooking is different to mom's kind of cooking. My mum would cook this, she would have her dishes, and then my dad would have something that he would do. Um,
mm,
so stuff like that, like I grew up with that, and I think having that as well for your kids is really nice as well. My kids are still quite fussy when it comes to food, even though my food's banging. They're not really too keen on certain things. I might cook with like a lot of meat and a
yeah.
lot of this and a lot of that, or maybe some fish and stuff like that, trying to get them off of the base that they get used to. Like a mother, I think, will cook what she knows her kids will eat. That's what it is, because it's easier that way, isn't
Yes.
it? It's like, okay, I
I
might
have
suggest
that.
something.
I have that issue.
Yeah, of course. Like my wife will be like, oh, "What do you want to have for dinner?" And I'll say, "Oh, how about this?" She'll be like, "Oh no, Elias won't eat that." Oh wait, Khalid doesn't eat that. They're not that picky, but one of the kids, Elias, is really fussy, so she's always say
Yeah.
something. But when I'm in the kitchen, I don't care. I'm cooking whatever. If he doesn't want to eat it, he
Exactly.
can starve.
Exactly. That's me. Yeah.
you know, you know. So you got to wean them off of that kind of
Because when
behavior.
I cook, like when my wife cooks, obviously she's cooking like whatever 90% of the time,
Yeah,
and she's just like just got to get it done,
got to get it
right?
done.
That's what zone she's in.
Yeah,
When I'm cooking, I'm like, look, it's a
fancy.
special occasion. I'm cooking.
Exactly, fancy.
It's a special occasion. So
Yeah,
then I'm like, and part of the reason why I like cooking now and then is because it's a challenge, right?
yeah,
So I want to challenge myself. I don't want to cook no basic thing.
really, yeah.
So then my wife will be like, well, they won't really eat that. They won't. I'm like,
I don't care.
I'm challenging myself. Let me challenge myself.
Yeah. But sometimes, like, you just got to.
So
I
yeah,
mean, I enjoy like the idea of like, okay, we haven't got much in the house. Let's see what I can put together. But just that notion of just that in itself, and you mentioned it obviously, is just supporting your wife, even in her, even in her role, for example. And a lot of couples do a tit for tat, like, oh, you haven't done this, I do this all the time, oh, I haven't done that. And every couple falls into that. Sometimes even we fall into it, but I know that it's easy for me to say, oh, I'm the provider, I work. And that means when I'm finished work, I'm not doing anything. Like, you do your job and I do my job. But there's a lot of barakah that comes with you supporting your wife in her responsibilities, in her roles, and it's a feedback loop that really supports and inches the marriage, is supporting your wife even in her stuff. Like, you're not going to expect your wife to start doing your job. you know you're not going to say, oh, I've done my job all week, how about today you go out and do my job? That's not going to happen. But her at home, her at home doesn't just, and you've got to remember the hours that they work, that women work, child raising, a lot more hours than
Yeah,
we do, generally
yeah,
speaking. Generally speaking. So,
yeah,
because I say that
yeah,
because I've met some guys, bro. Like, I've met a guy, he said to me he's never even made a sandwich for himself. Wallah, I'm not exaggerating. This is what he said to me. Allahu alam if he's exaggerating. But he said he's never even made a sandwich for himself. He's always had either his mother or his sisters or his wife making him stuff. He's never cooked a meal before. He's, and there's some guys I've noticed, they're very, they could be married for years and they could have kids that are as old as my kids, but they still socialize like they're bachelors. They still socialize like they're teenagers. They still always out every night with the guys, every weekend. Um, and I think that's also damaging as well. I think, I mean, a lot of people I've known like that in the past have ended up getting divorced, and I'm not surprised when I see it. I'm just like, okay, well, I know what kind of, priorities you had, and I'm not surprised you ended up where you ended up. Um,
mm.
so it's
But there is a reality in which that can work perfectly fine, and that is like the old way of being, which is that. So there are a few layers to it, right?
go
So
for it.
the way a lot of people are living in 2025 is different to before, right? And I mentioned that in terms of family support and stuff. So imagine, like you just mentioned, like helping your wife and stuff in her role, if you like. But there is a reality where that's not needed whatsoever,
Hmm.
right? And that's why sometimes you get some women, they're like, no man is allowed in my kitchen. That's my territory,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where does that come from? It's because they have support, so they're not really
No,
in
100%.
need of that extra support, etc. So imagine your wife has her, your sister, her sister, or mom or whatever helping her. It's like, why would you need to help her,
Mm,
right? Why
mm.
would you need to help her in that case? You can help her, but you wouldn't need to. It wouldn't feel like it's that needed.
Well,
And for me, like I take that as my default. By the way, I'm like, look, kids is not something where I'm like, that's the mother's job, right? Because kids is like it's a chance for me to get edger. There are different parts to parenting, of course. I guess parenting and taking care of the kids is a bit of a different thing in my head. But kids, I don't see it like that. But other things, cooking, cleaning, just that kind of general stuff. Yeah, if there was help and that community thing that I mentioned,
yeah,
there's
but
really no need for it
but the,
whatsoever.
but
Just like you said, a woman's not going to do
your
your
job,
wife's not going to
yeah,
do your job. It's the same thing, but the difference is that taking care of the house and looking after the kids when the kids are not at school, etc. That is, like you said, it's more than 8 hours a day. It's more demanding. And this is just a new scenario that we find ourselves in. And it's
yeah.
not something that anybody signed up for. Nobody signed up for living away from family.
Mm,
No one signed up for a woman having to work. No one signed up for these things. These are the realities that people found themselves in, right?
100%.
And sometimes if you look outside of the box, you'll find a way to not have to live like that. But a lot of people, they find themselves where they have to live like that. And so we're just trying to navigate these things.
Yeah.
But the point is that if your wife or if my wife got the help they would have normally got by living around family, then really they wouldn't need our extra help whatsoever.
Yeah, there was also like, I suppose back then there were probably for a lot of communities, there's also an element of persevering through difficulties that have caused isolation now, right? So why have people split and moved apart from each other is because they can't live together. Like families just don't stay together, they can't live together anymore. Even
That's a
back
part
home,
of it.
like
Yeah.
it was like now you see like I see it in Tunisia all the time, like a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law have a big argument. That's it, I'm moving away. They move out, they move to
Yeah.
God knows where,
Yeah.
and then that's isolated the family, and then it's divided the family. The family's just dividing and isolating themselves more and more. Whilst
Yeah.
before it was very
And obviously that
shameful.
causes more costs, more costs,
Yeah,
more
of
costs, more
course.
rent to pay,
There
innit?
was like
Yeah.
a big shame back in the day of like, oh, the boy of the house is leaving the family house, you know. And I've seen that a lot in Tunisia. I see that a lot in Tunisia now. And it just reflects what the general trend is in the West. I mean, I say trend, that the West is very deeply entrenched within that of just 18 or even younger, you're gone and you
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
never come back unless you're financially destitute and you've got
Yeah.
no
Come back for Christmas, Mum.
come
Love
back.
ya.
Love your mum. Um, so yeah, I get that. I think if I'm just trying to highlight that some guys maybe live with that kind of fairy tale in their head that they wish they had. They live like they're living
Yeah,
like
even
that,
though it's not the
but it's
reality.
not the reality. And because of that, it's like you're forcing a lifestyle on your family that they can't handle. Like your wife can't handle just all
Yeah,
of that on
exactly.
her
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
So you do need to, get involved. Otherwise, because that's the thing, some guys will throw it back on their wives to be like, oh, the wives of the Prophet or the wives of the Sahaba, they were like this and they were like that. It's like, well, yeah, they lived in those kind of communities, in those environments. When I'm not using you as a example of anything bad. I'm just saying you live in Istanbul, you're far away from your family. So I can imagine there is an element of isolation there for you. So of course you're going to be very present within your family. But imagine someone with that mentality living in Istanbul, no family, they're Algerian or whatever, living in Istanbul, no family. And they're like, well, if you cook for dinner, you haven't been home and you haven't been home in like, I don't know, 3 days, for example. You've been out for qahwa or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you're just having those expectations, and you've got like 3, 4,
I
5 young
actually have a
kids.
friend who's like that.
Really?
I actually have a friend who lives exactly like that, and I don't think it's linked, but he does have two wives, and he's got 7 kids, mashallah. Is it seven,
Back.
6 or 7 kids,
Yeah.
and he's on that vibe where he'll go out in the morning, he'll come back late at night. Yeah, like I'm not sure he does see his kids, but not too much. And the funny thing is though, his first wife, who has 5 or 6 kids with him, she actually doesn't mind whatsoever. She's like, yeah, I've
Really?
got no problems with the kids all day.
Fair enough.
So,
Maybe it
for
works
some
for
reason it
people.
works.
Maybe it works for
Yeah.
people.
So there are people. No, like I think it would be rare that that's like comfortable for a woman. I think that's rare. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it does only exist sometimes. But you know what it is, bro? I'll tell you something. Again, remember when I was saying that most difficult period in a woman's life, if she had a good intention for that and she was doing it for the sake of Allah or something, that she'll like feel much better about it. Right?
Yeah.
The same thing goes with, yes, the same thing goes with if a man is like finishes work and he's still not coming home. Why? Because he's like studying his religion or he's teaching or he's volunteering
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
these kind of things. Again, bro, like that is very, like many people do that. Like many of the scholars you might know, the du'at you might know, like the people that do a lot of good in their community, that is their life. They don't see their kids too much. They don't see their wife too much. And that's the life they chose. And guess what? They signed up for that. They get their ejr. Their wife
Maybe.
signed up for that. She gets the ejr. And sometimes that's how it has to work for you to have that big impact that you have, right?
Yeah.
But like you said as well, the kids know that my dad is not at a shisha cafe.
Yeah.
He's
100%.
studying the religion of Allah,
Yeah.
or he's the teacher teaching people how to pray or whatever. So something good comes along with that. You see what I mean? So, yeah, there are reasons to be out and about and busy and traveling and whatever. There are good reasons for that. And you could say that's a trade-off, right? Like I remember one sheikh, he said like, he's like pretty old now, 60 something or whatever. And he's like, how did he word it? I can't remember, but he basically said, I traded my kids' upbringing for dower. Like I kind of compromise on, ideally what the time and stuff I would have spent with my kids for the dower. I did that. I know that I made that, that decision, if you like.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, sometimes that's
Oh,
what's
man.
required, man. Like the people that we read about in history books today, some of them made very big sacrifices, and it's hard to know whether it's worth it or not. But yeah, you always have those kind of people.
Maybe kids are just more emotional now. Maybe we're just an emotional generation. I think I was very hung up on the fact that my dad wasn't with us for like the last 10 years of his life because he had to go to Tunisia. And I think because of that, I've got this whole like, I don't want to do that.
Were you hung up on that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I was very hung up on that.
oh, really? Huh?
And like, I see like, maybe alhamdulillah it hasn't affected me as much as it has like my younger sister. My youngest sister, for example, she's 21 now, but my dad must have moved to Tunisia like more permanently, when she was 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Around that age. And so when he passed away, it's like, oh, okay, he passed away for me in my late 20s, but for you, like, you don't really get much time with him. And I think I misjudged that initially when he passed away because not that I shabbat him or like I quenched my thirst of him, so to speak, but like for me, I was like, okay, well, a lot of people's parents die at their late 30s, late 20s, sorry. So I kind of accepted that. But then if you factor in the fact that he wasn't able to be with us for the last 10 years and then deduct that and then do the math, it's like, oh, that's really impactful. No wonder my sister really struggled and she was really upset. And, alhamdulillah, she's really strong and she's pushing through. But I always feel for her. And because of that, I am very conscious of like trying to spend every second I can with my kids because I think that has left a very big impact on me. Like losing dad was a big impact on just the way I view family and the importance I give to it. And plus, we, me, you, both of us, a lot of our circles, we get married young because we want to have a family, and I think that's my main kind of priority was getting married to have a family, not getting married to fulfill my desires as the number one priority, which I think many guys kind of that's like the mission on the of the day, right? So yeah, I think that's what it is for me. And like when you gave those examples of those shuyukh, like sacrificing that for dawah, I just I just don't think I could do it unless it came like unless it's like jihad fi sabilillah. You're doing it with the defensive, defending your country, defending your land, defending your family, defending your people. That's a call that you'd have to answer regardless. But any optional kind of, I have to leave my family like Ibn Battuta style. I'm going to go travel the world because I want to see what's out there. Because you hear about Ibn Battuta and how he just sort of just went, bro. It's like, I can do that. I don't know how someone could do that. How could they could just leave, voluntarily leave everything behind,
Yeah.
have families sporadically throughout the continent.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how people did that in the past. It's crazy to me. It's crazy, but I
Well,
guess
you know
everyone's
what's
different.
mad is that all those kids that he left behind they didn't have a dad, but they had uncles, they had cousins, they
Right.
had grandfathers,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's, I think, like, I don't know about you, but I've never like experienced or even observed that.
Mm,
But I think it's very, very possible that an uncle could be like a father, could actually fit the role of a
maybe,
father,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think we're not really aware of that. We're not we're not seeing that or experienced that. But I think definitely that could be the
Yeah.
case.
I think go on.
There's someone I know in Algeria, like a man and woman. They don't have kids. I guess they can't have kids because they're probably in their 40s. They still don't have kids. They got married probably 20 years ago, or 20, maybe 15 years ago. So they don't have kids. So the woman, her sister, has like 6 kids. Her
Right.
sixth child, she basically gave that sixth child to her sister to raise her.
It's fine, man.
And they live in the same town together. And the girl knows who her real mother is
Yeah,
and her
yeah,
real
yeah.
father, but she's just being raised by that couple. So that I don't think that's not like a traditional thing or anything, but they're doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see the results I'll have to
Yeah,
report
you
back
might
in
be
maybe
right.
10 more years.
I think you're right. The impact of having so much family around you, I think that's what we're missing where I am. I think when I think
Yeah.
about it actively,
Yeah.
it's like the regular male, uh, the regular male influence, the only regular male influence my kids have is me. You know, their granddad,
Yeah.
okay, one of their
Yeah.
granddads passed away. The other granddad is in Algeria. He doesn't even live here anymore. My wife's brothers, they are in London, so they're not where we are at all, you know, and they don't visit very often, to be honest. And then, other than that, I've got just one uncle actually. My other uncle is really, really ill with cancer, and he's gone to Morocco now to kind of live the rest of his days there. Um, and then there's another
Allah
uncle here.
yashfir.
I mean, but that's it really. So I'm very conscious of like if I'm not around, it's just my wife and my sister. Well, one sister and my mother that will kind of be around, and I'm very conscious. Like, oh, if anything was to happen to me, the only imprint I've left is what I've given them in terms of memories and maybe this podcast as well. You know, like in terms of active kind of memory of and I remember having that myself, bro. I remember like as soon as my dad died, I've realized, oh, who do I ask to how do I like I bought a car recently, all right? And the last car I
Oh,
bought
you
my dad
bought one, yeah?
yeah, I did actually, alhamdulillah. But that was like a very like it's interesting because the last car I got my dad was still alive and I asked him and what did you think and blah blah blah. He
Mm.
was ill, but you know, it was still like it's like a rite of passage that you have to ask your dad about the car you're going to get.
Validation.
Yeah, you
Mm.
need that validation. And this time round, it's like I can't ask anyone about cars, and I'm not really much of a car guy. But it's like I don't want to make a bad
You're the dad
decision.
now.
Yeah, I'm the dad now, so I've got to like haggle the price. Got to make sure I'm not getting ripped off. Got to inspect the car. Make sure you know. And I just thought, man, I need to figure this out. And
You know who
alhamdulillah,
your dad is now, bro? This
what?
is very sad, but it's true.
Well,
You know your dad is now in the replacement, the surrogate.
yeah,
It's ChatGPT.
bro. How did you know? Oh my god,
Because
I've
that's
got,
exactly the stuff I do.
bro. I've got so many conversations with it over all sorts of stuff. Like I bought it, subhanallah, and as soon as I drove it out, because they were driving it with me. Basically, the seller's wife had it here. Was in the town where I let's start at the beginning. The car itself was advertised in a nearby town, but when I messaged the guy like I wanted to see it, his wife happened to have it near me. He was like, oh, she's actually near you. Do you want to have a look at it? And I was like, oh, sweet. So I had a look. I was kind of impressed. I thought, okay, sweet. How do you want to do this? She was with her daughter, and they were like, oh, we can take you back to our place in the next town, and then you can talk to my husband. I was like, if you're comfortable, that's fine. So I spoke to the husband. I was like, listen, if you're comfortable, she can take me all the way to you, or I can come tomorrow on a train or something, you know, because I don't have a car. So I just sat at the back of the car and I went all the way there. But I don't know what the point of this was. But yeah, just checking it out and inspecting it, I was like, oh, ChatGPT, this is a checklist of all the things I need to look out for this particular model and blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as I drove it out and bought it, I drove it out, I realized the steering wheel was completely like, basically the wheel alignment was completely
Mm,
off. It was like that to go straight.
mm,
I was like, what the hell? Did I just break what have I just been ripped off? Right? I realized it just
yeah.
needed a wheel alignment or whatever, and we sorted it out. But it's like, it's not what you want when you first buy a car on your own. It's like to drive off, it's like bent,
True, true,
you know, and other things, you
true,
know, there was a
true.
couple of things. Like the next day, I took the kids to the park, had a bit of fun at the park, came back to the car, and there was like a massive oil leak on the floor. And I was like, no way. I was fuming.
Mm,
And then I was like
yeah,
panicking, asking ChatGPT what should I look for, blah, 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 blah. I know it's really pathetic, but you do it to validate your own thinking process. And then I quickly realized
yeah.
there is no oil leak on my car. I think I parked on a leak that was already there and I didn't realize. But
Okay, okay.
because I'm anticipating things to go wrong, it's like every little thing I'm
Yeah.
freaking out about.
Mm,
And you know, it's not a new car. It's a quite an old car, but alhamdulillah, it's low mileage and stuff. It's like a Japanese import, so it's one of those like seven
oh,
seaters.
those are the best ones.
Yeah, I've always really wanted one, and it's like a 2007, you know, Toyota seven seater, but it's really low mileage because they import them when they're quite low on mileage. So apparently, Japan's MOT process is really quite strict. So a lot of a lot of cars get imported or exported, should I say, out to the UK and Europe with quite low mileage. So you can kind of get away with it. But because of
Mm.
the age, you've got to pay attention to a few things. And also you can have issues with like getting particular parts might be a bit difficult because they're imports and stuff. Or trying to fix something on it and all the instructions are in Japanese or whatever. But like I said, ChatGPT, bro.
Yeah.
I found the manual and I just uploaded it to ChatGPT and then I was asking it, right, how do I do this and that? It was brilliant.
Mad, mad. Even other languages. Wait, so it's Toyota what? What's the model?
It's Estima, Toyota Estima,
Oh, I
2000.
know that, bro. Those are sick. That's probably like one of the best cars you can get.
I love it. I love it. I'm really proud of it. But like, do you know what I was
Bro,
thinking
your
of?
kids must be loving it more. It's so spacious in the
My
back.
wife's loving it the most because she used to have to sit in our old car in the back because there was no space to have all
True.
three kids in the back. But now, like,
Mm.
you've got Suleiman right at the back, you've got the two other kids in the middle, side by side. My wife, and then there's just so much space. But it doesn't feel big as well. It doesn't feel massive. Alhamdulillah. Anyway, like
Mm.
Berdak, alhamdulillah, it's nice to
Yeah.
have. Saves us walking around everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like, brother.
but yeah,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
it's just stuff like that. Like you want to you're very conscious of not having a dad around to ask that stuff. And I mean, look, I'm almost 32, and it's like, come on, man, get it together. Your dad's not going to be around forever. Like, you're a grown man. Like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? People call you uncle in the masjid. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
but, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it also makes you conscious of what you need to teach your kids and what you want to get your kids ready. Like, I've got boys, bro. Alhamdulillah, all boys, and you've got boys as well, and you just want to be able to give them the assets and the know-how to just get through in life without, completely just being clueless or done over or ripped off by this crazy world that we live in. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's important. Like that's why I think yes, spend time with your kids as much as you can. And if you're going to go see your friends or whatever, if they're old enough, take them with you if you can. I did a daddy's day the other day, which I have never really done. A friend of mine has got two kids. I've never actually done this,
What's
to
a
be honest.
daddy's day?
I just called it that now. It's not actually a thing, but my
Oh,
friend,
okay.
my
You
friend was
gave it a gay name, bro.
no, my friend was like, "Oh, I'm taking my kids out. Do you want to come out?" And I've never really done that. I've never taken all of my kids
Ah,
out to see
okay.
my friends' kids. Never really done that. So
Oh, I've done that a few times. Yeah.
yeah, I've never really done it. I suppose having three of them, I realized, yeah, this isn't as easy as my wife makes it look. But um, I usually like take one, maybe two maximum, but to take all three out on my own, I'm not really too keen.
Right. Yeah, true.
I'm not really
True.
too keen.
I'll focus. Yeah, bro, you know what I was gonna say? The funny thing is my you're saying about how your dad went to Tunisia and this and that, and how you felt about that. My dad was kind of typical Algerian, I would say. I'm not saying this in a bad way at all. It
Typical.
just like I wouldn't see my dad too much, right?
Oh,
Like I'll see my dad maybe half an hour in the afternoon, and then late night, not late, but maybe 9 p.m. or whatever. I'll see him again for another hour, maybe hour and a half on a weekday. This is so
yeah.
that's when I would see my dad. Like my dad would come home from work, but he just can't stay at home. He would just be out, Oh, gotta. He was at the garage a lot, right? I don't know, he was fixing the car, dealing with issues. He was meeting with his friends and stuff as well. But that's my experience with my dad, and I don't resent it at all. Like I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I
Did you
don't
not
really
as a kid
go.
though?
Yeah, even as a kid, I didn't.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't really have an issue with it.
Huh?
I didn't. Like now, if I analyze it, I could say, yeah, he could have taken me to the garage. He could have taken me to these places. He could
Really?
have taken me to that. But so I could have learned more. Yes, like there's potential for better. But in terms of, do I feel bad about it? Do I feel resentful about it? Anything like that? Like, no, not at all. In fact, when I describe how much time he would spend with me, it sounds like a little, but I feel like I learned everything I should have learned from him, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like he passed on quite a lot to me so far. So yeah,
I think I think Western pop
yeah,
culture teaches kids to be very ungrateful and very emotional, and I think I picked up a lot of that when I was growing up here. Lots of movies. They're like,
Oh,
Dad, you don't understand me, Dad. That kind of stuff. And I think, no, I'm not even joking. Like fully, 100%. That
that's
influenced.
the American
Yeah,
accent.
that
Okay.
stuff really like probably influenced me heavily growing up. So I always felt like, oh, all my English friends, like their dad's always around, my dad's never around, or comparing that kind of, that he wasn't like, in retrospect, of course he was. He was always at home when he was in the UK, but when he had to go to Tunisia, that's when like things changed. But
Yeah.
I was like 18 then. Do you know what I mean? Like I started practicing by then, so that kind of filled that void, that real yeah, that void of like trying to learn about the masculinity or male role models, whatever it might be, was filled quite neatly actually by my seeking knowledge of Islam and all that kind of stuff. So, and I met lots more men then. I started going to the masjid and meeting all sorts of people and real role models, and um, that's probably when I started clashing with my dad. But funnily enough, but you know what? That's
Mhm.
interesting actually. I know it's a bit of a segue, but that clash, because at one point your kids are going to get older and they're going to start being influenced by other men beyond you. It's very easy now. Like, what my son did this morning, subhanAllah, woke me up. He had like an elastic band on his finger, right? And he's like, obviously cut off the circulation. So his finger's gone really dark. And he's like, look, Dad, I'm going to have the same skin color as you. And he was so excited that he was going to be a bit darker because he's lighter than me, right? He was just so excited.
Okay.
It's like, oh, I'm going to be as dark as
Yeah.
you. Look, Mum, I've got the same skin color as Dad. And I just found that like, wow, that's kind of cute. Take that off your finger. Your finger's gonna fall off. But I just thought, oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of cute. Like he obviously
Mm.
wants to be like his dad. And then my wife was telling me
Mm.
a story of her friend. 'Cause I know the dad is got friends with me. The dad is black and the mother is, I think, North African. So they're lighter. The kids are basically mixed race, but they look lighter than their dad, obviously. But their kids have already made comments like, "Oh, I wish I was as dark as dad. I wish I was as dark as dad." Like those kind of comments. Like they just want to be like their dad, right?
Mm.
And then it makes me think
Mm.
like, there's a shift. One day you're not cool anymore. They don't want to be you. They find other role models. They want to be like other guys, and I
Yeah.
just don't know how I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Definitely. Definitely. I think the way to survive that is for them to look up to and to want to be like men that you also respect, at least.
Yeah, yeah, of
You know,
course, yeah,
that would help a lot, right? That
yeah,
would
hundred
really
percent.
help a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
So
alhamdulillah. Yeah, but look, that's if you're not
it's like,
around.
I want to be like Sheikh so and so. It's like, yeah, fair enough. You
Fair
should
enough.
be like Sheikh so and so.
That's the thing, though. Like, if you're not around, that void does get filled up by other people. Other guys, other
Yeah.
even.
I mean, Allah provides. That's part of, if you think about it, that's part of the kids' risk, is to have whatever people in their life that would
Yeah,
be good company for them and that would guide them. And
but
whether
negative
it's
as
you or
well. There's
someone
the
else.
negative element to that as well. Like, you hear about all these kids that are just like end up on the road and they don't have their fathers around or whatever. And I'm not saying that's what we are. I'm not saying we're abandoning our children completely. Like some fathers do. But just that element. Like I see a lot of I don't know how it was the last time you've been in any city area in the West, but you see a lot of young Muslims that are probably dabbling in stuff that they shouldn't be, obviously, uh, dealing drugs or whatever it might
Mm.
be, or being in those kind of gangs. It's like, oh, where are their fathers? Oh, well, they are there, but they're just not there. They don't really know what their kids are up to, or they haven't really got a close enough relationship with their kids. And I think that element, being in the police for 5 years, really kind of reminded me. I wouldn't say showed me. It reminded me of how easy it is for kids to go astray. I was seeing kids that I knew came from good families and just I've seen mothers begging me to speak to their Muslim boys because their father is in a different country completely and they can't control their kids, and their kids are just dealing drugs and getting arrested and all sorts of stuff. So I think that there's so many ways of it going wrong. They just want to be there all the time, so it doesn't. And obviously, it's all in Allah's,
Yeah.
all in Qadr Allah, right? Even Nuh alayhi salam couldn't guide his son, obviously, because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who guides. So it's like I have that discussion with my wife all the time. It's like we worry and we want to do our best and we want to always be present and we want to do so many things with the kids so that we could always say, "Oh, we did these activities and we did this and we taught them that and whatever. But you also have to kind of accept the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with things. And look, I say
Yeah.
that, I mean, because we're young and the kids are young, and you couldn't imagine them doing anything wrong now. But in a blink of an eye, they're going to be much older and have their own minds, and everything
Yeah.
you've kind of put in them is going to manifest itself in one way or another in their teenage years and in their adulthood. Um, and I just don't want to. I don't want to live a life of regret. And I think my dad, one of the last things he texted me was, "Oh, I never got to spend too much time with you." Like, and that really affected me just reading that, because I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Wow.
You never know that he wanted that. You never know. You know. Let
Yeah.
me see. I might even have it still. Uh, I don't know. I might not. I don't know. I might not have it. It was like a screenshot I had on my phone of like his last message, and I think it was very impactful. But I probably won't be able to find it now. Um, yeah, you just don't know. You just don't know. But what do you think about that, bro? What do you think about it going wrong? Do you dwell on those kind of things?
A lot of these things are just maybe my kids are too young for me to dwell on it. I don't know, even though they're not that much younger than yours. But I think that's my mission in life, if you like, bro. My mission in life is to, as somebody who's like, how do I say it? Always wondering about where I'll be living in 3 years from
Yeah,
now. The mission is always the question about where I'm living is always where could I take my kids so that when I'm not around, there will be good people around them.
yeah, yeah,
That's like the main question.
yeah, yeah.
And
Of course.
so, yeah, I'm just trying to put myself in a position where, yeah, the general average people around my kids
Yeah,
will be decent.
yeah.
Um, will be decent.
Inshallah. He said it
So,
here. Look, he said.
yeah.
I think I
Hmm.
said. Where is it? Yeah, quite a few messages actually. But one of them, he was like, I think I said, "Oh, I'm going to like obviously look after everyone or whatever." And he said to me, "Oh, you make sure you do that for your kids." I said, "I'll do my best." And then he goes, "I haven't even had time with you." I said, "I know, I'm sorry." He goes, "My life flew by me, and I didn't realize now it's too late." And that just like, oh, like I read that and it.
Whoa.
But my dad has never. He's one of those dads that's just not very emotionally. I don't know. I don't know, accessible
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
I've looked over the
Yeah.
shoulder of my sister's messages with him, and they're like essays, bro. But I think,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah, he was very open with my sisters, but I think just with me, it was a bit more awkward, maybe. But reading that,
Mm.
I think that was so impactful for me, and I think because of that, it left a big. Because you always assume this generation, they're just stone cold. They just get through it, but they're not. They just maybe
Yeah.
don't know how to express it. So reading him kind of acknowledge that he didn't get to spend much time with me, and
Mm.
like between him being ill, those 2 years, I think I only went to the cafe with him once. You know, and like I could probably count on my hand the amount of times me and him sat in a cafe together, or even had a meal together. You know, um, so yeah, I think a lot of that stuff. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating about the meal. I mean, just me and him, but like it all blurs into one. But yeah, I think just that really did leave a big impact on me. So I don't want to be on my deathbed with regrets. Like my uncle, subhanallah, is really, really sick, really, really, really sick, and for him, the cancer spread very quickly to his brain, to the extent that and he was best friends with my dad. Like they were the two like Starsky and Hutch or whatever duo you want to call them when they were first in this
Mm.
country, right? They were like best friends. That's how my dad married my mum. He was like best friends with my uncle. Um, and just seeing the difference, because unfortunately my uncle is divorced and his kids live really far away from him. They live up north. Um, and I just think, oh wow, my dad at least had us, and despite that, he had that closeness. But my uncle, he didn't have that blessing, I suppose, of his kids near him and being with him. And it was just very quick that his personality just shifted, and he didn't even know himself anymore, and he didn't know what he was doing anymore, and stuff like that.
Mm.
And once again, it just makes you think of like, you're here one day and you're gone tomorrow. And I said goodbye to him, knowing that's probably the last time I'll see him. Like, I said goodbye to him before he went to Morocco, and I was just like, wow. Once again, someone from my dad's generation going through it and passing away. And obviously, I mean, you've been through your story with your mother, and that's obviously going to have
Yeah.
its impact on you. And just knowing that she's no longer here, and whatever impact she had on you and your siblings, and you just don't want to mess it up with your kids. You don't want to not give them everything, and maybe giving them too much is too
Yeah.
much. But at the same time, it's this or that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like you were describing your dad. I'm that kind of guy by default.
Yeah.
But if I decide, of course, I can not be like that. It just depends what I think is best. I would say, and my dad is like that as well, Yanni.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I'm a bit different, like how my dad was with me, and then how I am with my kids. I am different so far.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm in the same direction, to be honest. But some things I'm a bit different so far. So we'll see. I mean, I guess one big difference is like I spend a lot more time with the kids, probably.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see if that's a good thing ultimately or not.
Inshallah.
Um,
My
yeah,
mum has
yeah.
said to
Actually,
me,
to,
my mum says to me
mm,
sometimes, she goes, you need to stop being their friend, like stop being so friendly with them. Not friendly, but like stop being so close to them. I think, Mum, I can't help it.
mm,
I can't help it,
yeah.
But yeah. But you were saying?
You know what, bro? You're saying like eventually they're gonna like want to be like someone else.
Maybe, yeah.
Part of me is I'm actually seeking that out, like
Really?
now, in terms of who can I take these kids to where they can benefit from
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than me,
Yeah.
right? Because there are people that are better than me. There are people that are experienced in other things than me, that are more experienced in other things than me. And also, it's like, it's kind of like diversification, if you like, as well. It's like we don't want all the thing to be on one person or two people. So I like the idea of that. And it's just about, okay, but will that person be a good
Of
influence?
course.
That's what I'm, like you take your kids to maybe martial arts classes or something like that, or a Quran class or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's,
Um,
yeah,
so
positive
that's part of
influence.
my job actually. As a father, that's a part of my job. Is to
Yeah.
find people, find friends for them in a way, or indirectly somehow, and find like different murabbis and different teachers or different whatever. That's part of my job.
Yeah.
Likewise, it's my job to build such a network that when they're marriage age, they'll easily find a wife. Yeah, and
Mm.
my daughter will easily find a husband because of the network in indirect ways. That's something, I mean, I learned from my parents, and can't really blame them for it. It's just the way that we lived in a very much living in one country and another and this
Yeah,
and
I guess
that.
so. Hmm.
But one thing I learned is build a network, like know people, because I said a couple episodes ago, like my brother now is living in Algeria, right?
Yeah.
And he's like living there for the first time in his life. Does he have a network? He's got zero network. Okay, at least my dad is there. My dad has a network in
100%.
one city of the country, right? But yeah, if I go to a new country now, I've got zero network. So, and even my network
Wallahi,
here,
yeah.
it's
Yeah, you're
it's
true.
kind
It's
of
right.
limited. So that's
It's
important.
true.
That's
It's true.
important.
And
Bro, the
it is
toughest thing is
important because,
finding good friends for your kids. That's the big
yeah.
toughest thing.
But it's just getting by in like, especially in a Muslim country or Arab country or wherever you go. Like, I was in Tunisia and I remember saying that exact thing to my mum. It's like I hit a point where I kind of hit this bit of a roadblock, and I remember saying to my mum, I was like, this is probably why I should leave the house more. Because every time I go, I don't like to socialize. I can't be bothered. I kind of been a bit of a recluse. I wasn't like that 10 years ago, but I've just very much just go there, spend time with the family, do the little bits and pieces of work I need to do, and then go back to the UK. But then I hit this roadblock, and I was like, man, I don't know
Yeah.
anyone that could help me with this. I don't really trust anyone. And maybe I should have been going to the cafe every other night. Maybe I should have been talking to people and make some friends here. And now I know why. Like, alhamdulillah, you kind of do speak to people and you make it through. But without that, like, consistent socializing, you don't know who to trust, you know? And because of that, like, no man can really get by in a Muslim country, without ma'rifah, you know. Otherwise, you're butting your head against the wall
Yeah.
with a lot of things, right? So you need
Yeah.
to know people. You need to know people. Less so maybe in the West, because there is a little bit more. I think. I mean, it helps, doesn't it? It helps. It helps you get by. But you can also have this notion of, okay, a complete stranger who does this particular job, I can check his reviews on Trustpilot and see how good he is.
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah. For
Yeah,
example. Yeah.
yeah. But back home, it's a little bit more dicey. Do you know a good builder? Yes,
Yeah.
I do. What has he built? You built that over there. Oh, okay. Is he going to rob me?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so alhamdulillah.
Exactly.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. That's a funny thing. Like that's an example, and you see that you notice the. Okay. So context. Yeah. So my brother rented a place recently for 3 months of somebody, and how do we find that guy? That guy is from the same town my dad is from, and my dad has heard of that family, right? I don't think he knows too much about them, but he's like, yeah, I heard about them and this and that. So that built some level of trust.
Mm,
And like my brother took the place. But now it turns out the place has all these problems. And the
oh
guy
no.
is a crook, basically. The guy's like,
No.
my brother called him to tell him like what's wrong. The guy starts shouting at him. He starts saying, you broke it, you must have broken it, blah, blah,
No
blah.
way.
Right. And it's funny because that's like in a way, that's like a traditional way of finding stuff. Oh yeah, I've heard of that family name. Okay, yeah, okay. So there's a bit of trust, but there actually shouldn't be any trust. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you know about this
What do you
guy,
know?
right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, one of the only places where reviews like exist online in Algeria is like Airbnb, right?
Right.
Because there is Airbnb in Algeria, and there are reviews there, and you can imagine like you go for the usual issues, whatever that you might have with somebody. Oh,
Yeah.
you need to pay this extra, or you broke
Yeah.
this, and some sort of disagreement happens. You can just go straight to Airbnb. They're going to arbitrate it. They're going to sort it out. Whatever they say goes, right? They
Yeah.
probably side with the customer or whatever. So it's very different, man. It's very. You
Yeah.
can imagine that they'll be well behaved when it comes to Airbnb,
Yeah.
but everything else is just
Yeah.
the what's
100%.
it called, survival of the fittest.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I need anything done, I'm still kind of relying on the connections my dad used to have. In a way, like,
Yeah,
oh, you're with Murad. Yeah, he's great. He was this, he was that. I know you. I remember you. But like, that's going to dry up within
yeah,
one generation. Like, when my mother's no longer here, and my aunt's
exactly.
no longer
Yeah,
here, who's going to know us? So there is that element of it, and I
exactly.
have to start making more connections. It's impossible to survive without it. Yeah, people come up to me now and just know me. Like, I don't know who you are, but I guess you know my dad. you know,
Exactly.
um, but
Yeah.
like, my kids aren't going to have that. Like, one day, my kids will be responsible. They're
Unless
not
you
going to be
build it,
like,
yeah.
yeah, of course, and they can't rely on that. So yeah, I got to build it. Got to build it somehow. God,
But obviously, you're not going to build it from abroad, are you?
no,
So
of
just how
course,
your dad built it because he was there. So
yeah,
you've got
100%.
that to an extent where you
Well,
live, right?
I mean,
So,
even
you
here
know,
though, actually, like, even in the UK or even in the West, that's what I'm saying. Like, going back to the original thing about
mm,
being with your family all the time, you do miss out on that. Like, now in the UK, I know like two guys maybe that I talk to every day, and yeah, if anything happened to me, I could probably rely on those guys locally, Annie, to. But I
yeah,
didn't really speak to these guys much a year ago. It's been like a 5 year thing. We haven't really chatted with these guys. We haven't really been close with each other. But now it's like, oh, if anything happened to me, I'm sure they'll step up or help or whatever it is. But you could
yeah,
fall into that, like, oh, I'm going to be a family guy. I'm never going to see anyone. I'm never going to socialize. Never nothing. And one day something happens to you. You know, you. I'll give an example. Like, wife's, my wife's, my wife's auntie's husband. I don't know what you want to call that. Miskin, he's a lovely guy, amazing guy. just before Eid, literally a day before, 2 days before Eid, has a heart attack, just collapses in the street, right? Gets rushed to hospital, and he was literally in a coma until a couple of days ago, right? And they thought he wasn't going to make it. They thought he'd been. Basically, what I'm saying is like you could just drop dead for anything.
Of course,
Alhamdulillah,
yeah.
he made it. Well, they didn't think he was going to. Really didn't think. They thought he was going to have some lasting issue, lasting brain damage or something because of how long he was out for. But it seems, alhamdulillah, that he made it. But if anything happened to me, my wife doesn't work, and she's got 3 kids, and there's no other guys around here. Like I said to you, I don't have any other guys. So maybe you do need to
Yeah.
have friends around. You do need to have people you can rely on. My friend
Yeah.
came over the other day, and I actually, my wife said salam to him and everything like that, just so that she would know who he is in case anything happens to me. Because there is an element of guys putting their wives, and I'm not saying, oh, we just sit and have a coffee together and all that. I'm not saying that. It's I want him to know, oh, that's my wife, just very
Double
briefly.
date.
No. Well, it could do that. It could do that. No, I was just saying, just salam, and that's it. Just so I'm comfortable, you know who she is, and she knows who you are. Because if anything happened to me, you can trust that he would come and help you, whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
have that if you haven't got brothers or family or whatever around.
Bro,
It's
you reminded me. Do you know Khalid Yassin?
yes, of course I do. Yes, classic.
Bro, he was, I don't know where he is now, but at one point he was here, like in Istanbul, in the exact same neighborhood as me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So you probably were kind of raised, if you like, on his stuff. Like a lot of people were, innit?
yeah. We were.
So me too, right? He had the talk on, there was the whole Taliban talk, he had many
Yeah,
talks.
yeah.
Anyway,
He did. Yeah,
so I met him at the masjid and he started talking to me, and he's very American, man. But then he started he went on a rant. He's like,
really.
and he's almost shouting outside the masjid. He's like, I need to know your wife. You need to know my wife. How am I going to help if I don't know you? I'm like,
Yeah.
chill, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, you're not knowing my wife. Leave me alone. Yeah. I was actually offended from what he was saying.
Oh no, no.
And I was like, but he's like, he's an older man. Like, I'm just going to stay quiet. But deep down, I'm like, you don't need to know my wife whatsoever. Shut up.
I mean, look, I get it. I get it. I get that, of course. But I think there is an element of extremities maybe that people veer into. Because look, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to get into it. It's probably a big debate. Obviously, it's not like socializing and knowing and chatting and texting and all that stuff. You don't
Yeah,
do that,
I know what you
obviously.
mean.
But it's just to know.
No, there's a practical element to it. Yeah.
There is. Even in the Muslim world, even the Arab world, any Muslim country, maybe, okay, I don't know all Muslim countries, but in North Africa, oh, that's so-and-so's wife. Oh, look, she's in trouble. Oh, do you want him to help? Oh, whatever. Whatever it might be, because we're all kind of family in that element, So there is that. And then just to have those boundaries, because when you're not there, it's just knowing that there's guys that you can rely on for any sort of emergency, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. When my wife knows that my friends are coming over, she's like, oh, let me bake this, let me bake that. Oh, they can take this back to their wives because our wives are friends. I'm friends with these guys and their wives are friends with my wife, and that kind of element. It's not like we're all sitting together and chilling. But we might all go to the park one day, and all the men are playing with the kids over there, and the women are sitting over down there. It's not a complete separation, but it's an element of okay, there's a community here, a community.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. My problem with the whole, building a network, my barrier is that I hate inefficiency. Right. So if I'm gonna one is I hate inefficiency. The second thing I hate is what I struggle with is having acquaintances. So I would either just know you by name and never talk to you ever again, or I'd be best friends. I don't know anything in the middle, right? I just really struggle with that, and I also struggle to maintain relationships. If you look at my unread messages on WhatsApp, it's crazy, right? So because of these things, it's so there's a guy, he's not very close to me. I don't see him regularly. Maybe I don't, I'm not 100% on his wavelength. I'm 80% on his wavelength.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh yeah, let's some people do this with me when they know that I do like marketing and stuff. They'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking of doing something, like, could we get a coffee and like discuss it? Those kind of things, like, I hate. Okay.
No.
Like, if
Oh
I,
no.
like, I do that sometimes, like, fi sabilillah kind of thing, but I don't like it, And I notice some guys, like, they're really like, yeah, they're always like, yeah, let's get a coffee, let's discuss this. What about this? Yeah, let's sit down and discuss it. For me, I just feel like inefficient, like let's have a clear agenda and let's like bang off the agenda
Yeah.
points like
Okay.
very.
Yeah.
But they're just like, yeah, like we've got the whole evening to kill, let's meet off, so that's my,
Maybe they want
barrier
to
to
get
these kind of
closer. They
things.
want to get closer to you, and you're already topped up. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are like that as well. They're like sociable. They want to get to know you. Maybe like they
Yeah.
heard things about you that are interesting, or they're curious. And the problem is, I'm just always like, I'm not curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're curious about me. I'm not curious about you for
You get
whatever
to an age
reason.
though, you're like my social. What's the word? My social battery,
Circle.
whatever, is topped up, and that's it. Like
Oh,
all the vacancies are now full up, and I don't have space for any other friends.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
feel,
yeah. I mean, this is very common amongst men, especially like
yeah,
after age 30, 30, maybe 35. There's no room for anyone else.
yeah, of
But
course,
what drives me forward is actually a sense of duty, that this is nothing to do with me, right? If I could go into that mode where this is not for my connections or for business, or, this is like to set up my family for a support network. Now it's like, now my sense of duty kicks in. Now I'm like, okay,
right,
maybe I could, compromise in
yeah,
order
yeah,
to build these connections and stuff. And also,
100%.
like, you got to have good intentions with these things. Maybe I can help people. And what's that for other than fi sabilillah, right? So
Mm,
definitely.
mm.
I mean, Islam is like, we don't need to mention it. Islam is a very social religion in that sense,
Alhamdulillah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like fard. It's actually a fard. If somebody's ill, someone needs to go visit them. Somebody must, right?
yeah,
If there's a janazah, someone has to pray over them.
yeah,
Now you might say, yeah, that's for their job and their family, but there will be times where there isn't anybody. And if everybody said that, then these fara'id wouldn't be fulfilled.
yeah, hundred
So
percent, hundred
we
percent.
can't, this is the weakness of our generation, and definitely the generation after
But
us, that we have all these social issues, man,
but we
and
we should
the best
always
we can, we gotta fight back.
we count our blessings as well, and we actually pat ourselves on the back for having what others don't have as well. I mean, look at the West and the lack of even community centres. I mean, where is the community for a lot of you know English people that aren't,
Yeah,
they're
it
not
used
going
to
to
be the
church,
pub, now it's Tinder,
even the
bro.
pub. Yeah, exactly. Now it's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like that's what I mean. There is no community unless they're like meeting up regarding like I don't know. There's bars and there's like video game clubs and there's all these gym clubs and all
mm,
this whatever it is. Those
yeah,
are spaces are being
yeah,
formed around those kind of things, but not in
true,
a
true.
way that the Muslim community, like, I could actually walk with a colleague from work. I could walk down the high street and like be random Muslims just saying salam to me. And he'd probably be like, how do you know all these people? It's like, oh, he's from the mosque. Oh, he's from the mosque. Oh, yeah, I know that guy from the mosque. Like, that's a community.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
community. But a lot of guys don't have that.
mashallah,
A lot of
yeah,
a lot of people, that is actually, sorry, that is probably what a lot of reverts are drawn to, at least what I've seen in the masjid here. They're drawn to that sense of
yeah,
community. They're, especially teenagers, young teenagers, drawn to that sense of belonging and having people that will love them regardless, whether they're good or bad. Whether they're struggling or not. Uh, you're Muslim, you get help. My neighbor, alhamdulillah, is Muslim, and I don't really speak to him much. But today I was doing the garden. He was like, "Oh, do you want me to help you? I'll take all your," because I got all these like pebbles and stuff. He's like, "Oh, I'll help you take all your pebbles to the recycling center." Like I was like, "Oh, don't worry, bro, but barakallahu feek." But I probably wouldn't get that from anyone
yeah,
else, just like that,
yeah.
you know. So alhamdulillah,
Oh
alhamdulillah,
wow, man,
alhamdulillah,
that's great. That's great. Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah,
Okay, bro, this was a good episode. Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah.
I've got another. I've got another hot take for next time. I'll save it for then, inshallah.
Hot
And
take.
yeah,
Give us a preview.
any.
Give us a preview. Go on.
Oh, I'm just gonna say it's to do with AI, but maybe not our usual conversation about AI.
Oh, have you changed it? What's your AI voice? Is it a man or a woman?
Come on, bro. Keep it halal out here.
It's not real, bro. It's not a real thing. All right.
Yeah. Wait till you're watching Actually, I won't say it here, but
Oh, there's a library feature.
yeah.
Wow. They've added a library feature on ChatGPT. So now you can just see all the
What do you
images
mean?
you've
What
ever
kind of
generated. There's like a it
Yeah,
says
I've seen that.
library.
Yeah,
Now you can see all the images you've ever generated in one place. They're really going hard with this image
yeah,
thing, aren't they?
100%.
Where are all my... Oh, that's why. Oh, yeah, look at this. Look at this. I do love it. It's problematic, but I'm talking to it about everything. Talking to it about
Yeah,
everything. Everything. I don't know how I used to do anything without it before. It's
this is the
bad.
thing.
It's like a 1 hour
To be
job would take me
continued.
5 seconds.
Ah,
If you're not using
you
it...
will do no work and you will be happy.
Exactly. If you're not using it, it's I feel bad for you because you're going to get left behind.
You won't have any fatherly validation when buying a car.
Yeah. Oh, bro. Alhamdulillah. May Allah protect us. May Allah guide us. May Allah bless you and bless me, bless our children, and free Palestine, and rid us of our oppressors all across the world, and guide our leaders and guide us to be good leaders and better leaders. And thank you for listening to my nice episode. Something.
200 and something.
Something.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know.
Excellent.